Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are actually switching things up and doing something a little different, and we are actually going to be talking about how much our van actually cost. This is actually the 12th van that we've built. We ran a very small van building business, just the two of us. We've had a lot of experience just building vans, but also then consulting online with other people who are going through the same DIY process. So our goal with this video is really just to give you a number and also really help talk about where we could have saved money because we know things have gotten really expensive.
So jumping into it, I'm going to go ahead and throw out the big number, what we actually spent on our van, including the vehicle. We spent a total of $87,950 on our van. This is including a new 2023 ProMaster. There are some additional associated costs, but you got to wait to the end of the video where we actually break down all of that to figure those numbers out. Obviously, the biggest cost is going to be the vehicle itself. We chose to go with the ProMaster 159 Extended. Our total for our van, with all our taxes and fees and everything we needed to register it, was $61,750. During 2023, the used market was absolutely crazy. Paying an additional $4,000 or $5,000 for the new van was worth it at the time. I think now the used market has come down a good bit. So that's our biggest cost right there.
For the build itself, we've broken it down into 5 main components. So we're going to walk you through electrical as the first component, construction materials as the second, appliances as the third, water as the fourth, and finishes and just kind of miscellaneous as the fifth.
Jumping into the big pop of electrical, I'll say we have a pretty maxed out electrical system. You definitely don't have to do this. When we first moved into a van, I think we had 100 amp hours of AGM batteries, and it was really basic. But in our electrical system, we have 810 amp hours. We have a 3000 watt inverter charger, and we have a ton of extra just additional stuff with our system. We've got alternator charging, we've got shore power, we've got a huge solar array on the roof that's also walkable. The downside of this electrical system is that it costs $17,500. That kind of generally breaks down to our walkable solar panels, were $3,200, and that is for 600 watts of walkable solar that we have up on the roof. Our batteries alone were $7,500. All the other components, like our solar charge controllers, our battery charge controllers, all those things came out to about $4,500. And then the wiring, which is a huge part that a lot of people really don't think about, that was $2,200 just for the wires.
And that's just the components. So again, all of these numbers, we are not including our time and labor, which, any good builder will probably charge you, I would say, anywhere from $30 to $50 an hour. This is where costs can really kind of start to sneak up with you with electrical, because for example, we have an AC unit and also an oven that draw a ton of power. If we didn't have those two appliances, I would say you could cut our electrical in half.
It's just important to kind of think through it all. Everything works together in a van build, and everything can result in either a lot more or a lot less money, depending on what direction you choose to go. Obviously, that 17,500 is an exorbitant cost. It also took us about a month to set up this electrical system, which is why we want to present an alternative that is much more user-friendly and introduce the sponsor of today's video, the Yoshino B2000. And don't worry, Scott will be back here in a second. The Yoshino B2000 has a high output of 2000 watts and can power most home appliances. With 10 ports that include AC, DC, and USB, we have no problems keeping our laptops, phones, and camera batteries all charged at the same time. At 31.3 pounds, the Yoshino B2000 is portable and easy to carry, and with a high capacity of 1326 watt hours, could easily last for days camping or in an emergency situation where you need backup power. With 3 charging methods, it's also easy to keep charged wherever you go. One of the things that I am most excited about with this particular unit is the solid state battery, which has a higher energy density, meaning you can charge this device over 4,000 times while maintaining a greater than 80% battery capacity. The ultra fast charging allows for 80% charge in just 45 minutes, and with solar panels, the unit charges to 80% in just 2.5 hours. The built-in high visibility smart screen allows you to easily monitor and check the status of the portable power source, and with Yoshino's remote control app, you can check the battery level and control functions of the device straight from your phone. With Yoshino's 5-year repair or replace warranty, you will have peace of mind for years to come. We have also been very impressed with the overall build quality of the Yoshino B2000, making it the perfect power solution for a camping trip or even your whole van. Check out the link down in the description below to purchase your simple solution to portable power, and thank you to Yoshino for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Now let's get into the next expense category.
Whoa. Hey guys.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Okay, so for our second category, we have construction materials, and this came out to $17,670. Now, one major thing that we should probably point out is we were building on the East Coast, which East Coast to West Coast, there's a big comparison.
You could be paying as much as a third more to build a van or anything really out west as you would like on the east, just depending on the location that you're at.
Yeah.
All the construction materials kind of break down into 4, I guess, subcategories. We've got insulation, which is $1,200. We've got the lumber, which is $7,000. We've got skylights and windows, which are actually quite expensive at $3,500 for the skylights, 2 skylights and 1 window. And we've got floors, hardware, shower, and extra stuff that comes to about $6,000. Again, this does not include any labor. We had talked about doing an 80/20 build, and oh my gosh, we priced out 80/20 to build this van, and it would have cost about $40,000 in just the 80/20. I know 80/20 and aluminum extrude has been like kind of a big wave recently in van building, but boy, that stuff is crazy expensive.
I would say one of the reasons our construction materials cost is so high is because we did choose to go with some more luxury materials. So for example, we went with real ceramic tile floors instead of like an LVP solution. We also went with a Baltic birch plywood instead of just like a normal plywood that you could find at Home Depot, which we have used many times and works very well. And then another example of a luxury material we went with is the Curdy system that we did all throughout our entire shower versus like a cheaper alternative to waterproofing, which would be like a red guard that you just kind of apply on like paint.
So this is one of the stages where you can really start dialing in how well your van is going to come out as a finished product at the end. And it's weird because this is a very early stage, right? Construction materials, you're basically working with a new van when you're strapping the van. But the way you strap, the types of materials you use for your cabinets, the types of waterproofing you use in the shower, that's going to dictate a lot what you're able to do moving forward with finishes and how like high quality the van is going to feel at the end of the day. The other thing I would say at this stage that really starts coming in is like windows and skylights. I think this skylight right above us here was like almost $2,000 itself. You really need to think through like, do you need a skylight? Would it be better to have solar?
Yeah, I think this is one of those areas where really try not to look at other people's vans and compare their vans to what yours could be. Really just try to think through your unique lifestyle and your preferences and your needs and try to tailor your build to that. Like, I know that having a skylight is an amazing feature, but it's an expensive feature. And that's a question we get a lot of the time is people really want skylights because they see them so often in vans. But what I don't think they realize is the money involved with just buying the product and then the time that goes into installing the product and the experience necessary to really make sure it's waterproof and just, you know, doesn't give you troubles later down the line. So for example, a way to save money would be to eliminate a skylight or maybe go with a much smaller skylight, or to do maybe like 2 max air fans or something like that to increase your ventilation.
Don't be confused. Like the people who have really crazy sick vans have spent a lot on them.
Yeah.
And if they've had someone else build them, they've spent a lot on them. And I know numbers get thrown around all the time on the internet, and some people get stuff for free. And this is something we're going to talk about, because if you're doing quick math, you're saying, hold up, $87,000.
We're there.
we're blowing past that real quick. But this is something we want to talk about, because not a lot of people share this. But that's, again, coming at the end of the video. So we're going to move on here to our next expense category, which is appliances. Now, this is going to cover, you know, fridges, AC units, like all this stuff. And this one's pretty heavy because we do have like a pretty appliance heavy van. So appliances add up to $11,500.
Now for our main appliances, we have our heater that cost $2,300. We have our AC that cost about $7,000. With our AC unit, we actually ended up finding a used Cruise and Comfort AC unit on eBay. We had no idea if it worked. We had no idea what the condition of it when it arrived to us. We kind of just took a chance on it for $1,500 about, which, if you don't know, they retail at around $7,000. It did end up working well. We haven't had any issues with it. So this is another way to save money. Look on eBay, look on used platforms, Facebook Marketplace.
eBay is your friend.
Yeah.
You can find a lot of stuff on eBay.
So we were able to get a $7,000 AC unit for around $1,500, which...
Huge savings.
Huge
savings.
So that's kind of the story on that. But we did put $7,000 in just because I think it'd be hard to find another used unit. And again, you're taking the risk that it may or it may not work. For our refrigerator, we spent $1,300. Our oven cost us $400. And our sink/faucet combo cost us $450.
So that is the appliance section. Like I said, we have a bit of an appliance heavy van with the AC and some other things. And because of that, our electrical system ended up costing quite a bit more as well. So bear that in mind when you're choosing your appliances. There is the trickle-down effect to other areas of the build that could cost you thousands.
Literally.
It
sounds dramatic, but literally.
Okay, moving on to one of the absolute toughest sections of our van, water. And we've seen a lot of vans that are 20 gallons of fresh water with like a 5-gallon gray water tank, and we just didn't want to go this route. We didn't want to be filling up all the time. We didn't want to be emptying gray water all the time. So we have a 48-gallon fresh water tank, and we have a 30-gallon gray water tank. And before we go any further, I want to say the ratio on these is perfect. About 50 gallons of fresh and about 30 gallons of gray. You drink the other like 20-ish gallons of water, and you are filling and emptying at the same time. And we get like a full 2 weeks on our water tank while we're showering, and basically like using as much water as we want, which is just so rad. The breakdown of those costs, we have the water tanks and bracket system, because we actually did an exterior mounted water system completely. That came out to $4,000. The water heater, pump, accumulator tank, and filters all came out to about $1,500. The plumbing and fittings came out to $900, and the heating elements and tank insulation, because again, this is an exterior tank system, came out to about $650. I don't want to get too much into the water system here because honestly, I just wouldn't recommend it, and I wouldn't do it again.
There are a lot of things that we did on this van because we knew it was going to be our home for years to come, but there are things that we would never ever recommend that anyone else does. Because they were so brutal.
All that to say, the water costs about $7,000. It was a terrible process to set up, but we're very, very happy with our large water capacity.
Anyways, that brings us to our fifth and final cost, which is finishes and miscellaneous, and that came out to $6,500. The breakdown of that cost is Roman clay. It costs $2,000. Our veneer, we did use a real red oak wood veneer, cost us $1,500. Our lighting, which if you look around, we have a lot of, cost $1,000, and that included tracks and wiring, switches, all of the things. And I love that you included this. Mistakes. $2,000, because you will make mistakes, and you'll probably make more than we did, because this was our 12th van. I think
2,000 is light.
Yeah, that's light work. Yeah.
I just want to put this out there. We've made major mistakes on every van we've ever built. Now, have they been delivered to a client with the major mistakes in them? No, absolutely not. But the mistakes have been made. We've botched countertops. Countertops, for some reason, are a nemesis. Yeah. We had to pour these epoxy countertops like 3 or 4 times. 5 times?
5 times.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. That's actually where the only real mistake we made on this build, and that cost us $2,000. Yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. Don't worry about it. It's part of the process, and it's part of like building anything yourself. As far as like this section goes as well, we also chose like really premium materials. Roman clay is obviously way more expensive than paint, but we wanted to go with that because it does provide like a little bit more texture. The veneer is obviously way more expensive than it would be to paint cabinets or even go with like a Formica. So, how freaking much money did we spend on this thing? And if you've been adding this up, you're like, dude, you lied to us at the beginning. Like, what the frick is this $87,000? Like, I'm calculating like 120. And you're right. You're calculating $122,200. And this is where things get tricky with like the budget. Because if you bought everything that we put into this van retail with no labor, no additional time, and no rent for shop rent, because that's another cost that we had that I'm going to talk about here in a second, you would have spent $22,200 to build this out of a Home Depot parking lot. We spent $87,950. We also spent about $10,000 for the 6 months of shop rent that we built this van in. We also had been running a build business for like 3.5 years at this time, so we had a whole tool set up that was specifically dedicated to building vans that we had slowly acquired over years. So in other words, we were like set up to build this van. We also had some really good relationships with companies and just people in general that ran companies through the 3.5 years. And a lot of those people were able to provide discounts to us because we explained the situation that this is our van and we really like you guys and we've been working with you for a few years. And some people were willing to provide that to us, which is super rad. And honestly, the only reason we were able to afford to build this van. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone would be able to do that. So that's why we want to throw out this final price of like $122,000. And then if you actually tack on rent to that too, you're looking more in the $130,000 range, which it starts getting to the point where you really just have to consider whether or not something like this is worth it. Now to us, $100,000, honestly, in this economy,
there's no way else we'd rather live right now. So we were confident spending that much, knowing what this lifestyle would facilitate in the future for us.
Especially now with how crazy things have gotten. Like, I don't know that van life is worth it for everyone in 2024.
Yeah. Everything is expensive. So is van life worth it? I think if this is a lifestyle you really, really value, it's worth it.
That's really something you have to consider. Or maybe consider doing what we did. We worked for a year. We saved up $14,000. We built out a van over a year on weekends while we continued to work and save some money. And then we lived in that van for 3 years until we figured out whether or not this was something we really wanted to do before jumping into a higher cost van like this. So hopefully that like kind of gives you a general sense of like what we spent, how maybe you could save some money doing something similar. It's been a year. We've been able to pay off this van in that year, which is super rad. And I'm super psyched that we were able to build this thing, even with our shop rent and stuff, for under $100,000.
Yeah.
I think that's very worth it.
I think so too.
You would say the same?
Yeah. If you have any more questions, Patreon is always a place where you can connect with us one-on-one. There is like a messaging feature there, and we have shared a ton of resources that go a little more in depth just into certain elements of this build. It's $5 and you can join at any time. You can also leave at any time.
On there, we have the entire link sheet with every single item in this van broken down into a link that takes you straight to the product that you could purchase and theoretically like almost exactly replicate this whole build.
If you have even more questions, another way you can connect with us is through our consultation calls, and those are on our website. They're always linked below, but we really just love those calls. They're a great way for us to connect with DIYers and really just like get back to the core of the process. We know it's a lot and we know it's intimidating.
I think that brings us to the end. Hopefully this was helpful and informational. And let us know in the comments below if like you think this was worth it at all, because I think that's always interesting to hear like other perspectives that aren't like so in the lifestyle.
Yeah. Anyways, we will see you in the next one. Make sure you're subscribed, like this video, and thanks for watching. Bye.